We found one of the most beautiful tombs here. We call it Ni Hisud Ba. Back to the Old Kingdom, 5th dynasty, 4,400 years old.
Archaeologists have unearthed a tomb containing 3,500-year-old mummies in perfect condition. A secret sits dormant in the depths of time, ready to be revealed. The soil whispers its buried stories, and archaeologists have responded. A long-lost tomb has been discovered, displaying an incredible sight. 3,500-year-old mummies preserved in excellent condition. But a terrible secret waits within this old crypt, cloaked in cryptic darkness. As the dust settles, the sounds of the past become more audible, and the question lingers. What secrets do these ancient guardians conceal, and what horrors await those who dare to disturb their eternal slumber? Egyptian archaeologists have made what they are calling an important discovery after excavating a tomb that is 3,500 years old and located close to the city of Luxor. The tomb contained many mummies, colorful wooden sarcophagi, and more than 1,000 funerary figurines. According to a statement released by the Ministry of Antiquities on Tuesday, a tomb dating back to the 18th dynasty that contained at least 8 mummies was discovered in the Dra Abdul Naga necropolis close to the famous Valley of the Kings. It was the property of a nobleman by the name of Unearthed, who served as the judge of the city. Mustafa Waziri, the head of the archaeological mission, stated at the site that it was opened during the 21st dynasty around 3,000 years ago to add more mummies to safeguard them during a time when tomb robbing was common. This information was provided by Waziri. Antiquities Minister Khaled El-Enani told reporters standing outside the tomb it was a surprise how much was being displayed inside. "We found a large number of ushapti, more than 1,000 of them," stated Inani. "This is a significant piece of new information." Figurines known as ushatabis were frequently interred beside the deceased in ancient Egyptian tombs to assist the deceased with their afterlife duties. Antiquities officials initially stated that 6 mummies together with partial remains were unearthed near the southern city. However, they later said that they identified 2 additional mummies from the discovery. There are 10 tombs, each containing 8 mummies. The excavation is still in progress, stated Waziri. Inside the tomb, archaeologists wearing white masks and latex gloves investigated the sarcophagi that displayed the carved faces of the deceased. The sarcophagi were covered with elaborate drawings in red, blue, black, green, and yellow, and featured the faces of the deceased. The possibility of further discoveries. The majority of the coffins were in excellent condition, but a few of them had become damaged and shattered over time. A mummy that had been wrapped in linen and was found inside one of the coffins was also being examined by one of the archaeologists. Pots of various colors and patterns, including white, orange, green, and patterned ones, were also discovered in the tombs. The necropolis is situated on the west bank of the Nile on the opposite side of the river from Luxor. It is here that many of the well-known ancient Egyptian pharaohs, such as Tutankhamun, were laid to rest. According to Waziri, the age of the tomb was determined through the drawings on the ceiling which were found within. According to a statement released by the ministry, it is a T-shaped tomb that consists of an open court leading to a rectangular hall, a corridor, and an inner chamber. The figures of Ushapti were found in a pit inside the tomb that was 9 meters deep. The shaft also contained wooden masks and a handle of a sarcophagus lid, according to the ministry. The corridor of the tomb leads into an inner chamber where a cache of sarcophagi is found, the ministry stated. According to Waziri, the mummies belong to a period referred to as the era of the tomb robbers. It's evident that someone with a conscience, the priest or a high-profile government official, made an opening to the chambers and they put the coffins in there, he added. According to the ministry, an additional chamber of the tomb was uncovered. However, the ministry also noted that the chamber had not yet been fully excavated. After removing almost 450 meters of debris out of the open court, the report said archaeologists were able to enter the tomb. The ancient tombs and temples of Thebes, which was the capital of ancient Egypt during the latter eras and is now the city of Luxor, have long been a popular destination for vacationers. The upheaval that followed the 2011 revolt that resulted in the overthrow of long-standing dictator Hosni Mubarak has contributed to a decline in tourism there. Inani expressed his optimism that recent findings would assist in reviving the tourism industry. The spokeswoman for the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, Naveen El-Arif, stated that there is evidence and traces that new mummies could be discovered in the future at the location in question. In Memphis, the ancient capital of Egypt, archaeologists have made several exciting new findings at the tombs of Saqqara. One of these finds is a mummy that is 4,300 years old and wrapped in gold leaf. At the bottom of a 33-foot shaft is where the mummy of a guy named Hekashippus was discovered. The mummy was found in a stone sarcophagus that had been sealed shut. I put my head inside to see what was inside the sarcophagus. A magnificent mummy of a guy coated in layers of gold, said Zahi Hawass, Egypt's famous former antiquities minister, to Mohammed Vagdi of the Associated Press. Although several news organizations have referred to the find as the finding of the oldest known Egyptian mummy, this assertion is not accurate. Instead, as Hawass explained to Owen Jarvis of Live Science, the mummy in question is the oldest complete mummy covered with gold. According to Hawass, who was interviewed by CNN's Omarachi Ori and Mia Alberti, the mummy had a ring on his head and a bracelet on his chest, all of which indicated that he was a man of great riches. This was in addition to those layers of gold wrapped around him. According to Egyptologist Francesco Tiradriti of the Core University of Enna in Italy, who was not engaged in the dig, he was also wearing a tunic with a belt. This may have been an ancient attempt to preserve the living appearance of the deceased, Tiradriti told the Live Science. Tiradriti was not involved in the excavation, but a move of this kind can shed fresh light on the religious views that were prevalent throughout that time. The location yielded the discovery of several other tombs throughout the excavation. They belonged to a priest named Numagajef, a judge and writer named Fetek, and a priest who may have been named Messi, according to a statement that Hawass posted on social media. One of them belonged to the official court of the royal court named Mary, who was known as the Keeper of the Secrets. Ali Abu Dashish, another archaeologist who was engaged in the excavation, tells Catherine Armstrong of BBC News that this discovery is so important as it connects the kings with the people living around them. When scientists discovered a horde of mummified crocodiles in 2019 while excavating an undisturbed tomb at Kubbat el-Ha, an acropolis on the western bank of the Nile River, they weren't completely taken aback by the find. After all, these kinds of discoveries are quite common in Egypt, a place where ancient people maintained the remains of dead animals as religious sacrifices, food for the afterlife, or embodiments of particular deities. For example, the crocodile was a symbol of the great fertility god Sobek, who was also credited with the creation of the Nile. Following a more in-depth investigation, the group concluded that the mummified crocodiles had been maintained in a manner that was distinct from the norm. The authors report in the journal PLOS1 that the 10 crocodiles were mummified without use of resin or evisceration of the remains, both of which are common components of the mummification process. According to the findings of the investigation, each of the animals displayed a unique level of preservation and consisted of 5 heads and 5 more or less complete bodies. Sam Jones of the New York Times quotes lead author and archaeozoologist B. D. Couper as saying, "The majority of the time I'm dealing with fragments, with broken things." D. Couper is employed as an archaeozoologist at the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences. To hear that you have 10 crocodiles hidden in a tomb, that's special. The length of the reptiles varies anywhere from 6 to 11.5 feet. They appear to be representatives of 2 distinct crocodile species, namely the West African crocodile and the Nile crocodile. According to what De Couper explains in a statement, the animals may have been excavated and relocated to Kubbat el-Ha sometime around the 5th century BCE after being buried in sand pits in another location for natural mummification. Researchers were able to analyze the mummies in their natural environments without resorting to the use of specialized technologies like radiography or CT scans, since the mummies do not contain any resin or linen. Insects long ago consumed practically all the bandages that were used to wrap the remains. The absence of linen bandages and resin allowed us to carry out directly a detailed study of the preserved tissues and bones in all individuals, De Couper tells Aristos Gurjou of Newsweek. And this allowed us to carry out a direct study. In case of the 5 isolated skulls, the heads were removed when the crocodiles had already dried out. How some specimens of mummified crocodiles died is easier to determine than the manner of death of other examples. In 2019, a second team of archaeologists utilized synchrotron scanning to examine the remnants of a mummy that had been stored at the Musée des Confluences in Lyon, France. The mummy was estimated to be approximately 2,000 years old. According to what the researchers wrote in the Journal of Archaeological Science, the crocodile suffered a skull fracture that indicated it was made by a single blow, presumably with a thick wooden club, aimed at the posterior right side of the crocodile, probably when it was just resting on the ground. The size, direction, and shape of the fracture all pointed to a single blow being used to cause the injury. The findings suggested that ancient Egyptians got crocodiles for mummification by hunting, in addition to other ways of procurement that were previously known, such as recovering carcasses or rearing animals for the sole purpose of sacrificing them. It is interesting to note that none of the crocodiles found at Kubbat el-Ha had any injuries consistent with a violent death. The authors speculate that the reptiles may have perished as a result of being submerged in water for an extended period, suffocating, or being exposed to the sun for an extended period. Co-author Alejandro Jimenez Serrano, an Egyptologist at the University of Jaén in Spain, told Marianne Gounod of Insider that traces of rope that was discovered on some of the mummies may indicate that they were tied up, probably into their death by dehydration. Animal mummies, which can take the form of anything from cats to birds to snakes, are probably the most numerous object to come from ancient Egypt. Yekaterina Barbas, who was a co-curator of a previous show on the subject at the Brooklyn Museum, said, "The animal mummies range from cats to birds to snakes, and the exhibition suggested that they were occasionally used as pleas for assistance from the gods, even though the precise function of the mummies is still unknown." Ancient Egyptians prayed to Sobek, who was often shown with the head of a crocodile, for rich soil and protection from dangerous reptiles. In return, Sobek granted their requests. The crocodile was seen as a very powerful animal, stated Rita Lucarelli, an Egyptologist at the University of California, Berkeley. It was able to survive both on land and in water. It may launch an assault extremely rapidly. It was quite unpredictable in addition to having a great presence. It possessed a great deal of physical strength. Crocodiles get most of their nutrition from fish in the wild, but they're so aggressive they'll attack anything that comes across their path. Although Day Couper and her colleagues have only made educated guesses about the age of the crocodiles and the species to which they belong, they expect to verify their findings in the not-too-distant future with the use of radiocarbon dating and DNA analysis. According to Jimenez Serrano, who spoke to the Times about the find, the discovery of these mummies offers us new insights into ancient Egyptian religion and the treatment of these animals as an offering. That's all for today's video. To know more about such interesting discoveries, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.